Welcome back to the course on the different world religions. And we were looking at the traditions of India and China so far. We also started looking into Japan and we discussed about Shinto in a previous lecture. Today we will look at the Buddhism tradition of Japan, Japanese Buddhism. So, how Buddhism reached Japan, first of all, is a very interesting story. We'll look into that and also different varieties, different forms of Buddhism in Japan. Japanese Buddhism, some of the key sects of Japanese Buddhism are Shingon, that was founded by Kukai, Tendai, that was founded by Saicho, Pure Land Buddhism of Japan, and that was founded by Honen, and True Pure Land by Shinron. And then there is Nichiren Japanese Buddhism. So there are already five major sects of Japanese Buddhism: Shingon, Tendai, Pure Land, True Pure Land, and Nichiren. Okay, so heritage of Indian Buddhism in language and culture, cultural clothing of Chinese Buddhism. How Buddhism reached Japan is in this way. The heritage was borrowed from Indian Buddhism, but the language and culture that clothed this Buddhism was all borrowed from Chinese Buddhism and mediated also by Korean monks. Establishment of Buddhist temples could lead to the worship of other deities and eventually produce what we now think of as a Shinto shrine. Even the shrines that are associated with Shinto, they may well have been started as a Buddhist temple, and that included other deities also, and eventually became a Shinto shrine. That's again very much an Asian phenomenon where Buddhist and Jain temples sometimes became Hindu temples in India, and in China, similar things in China, and now we see the similar things in Japan as well. Uh, so temple starts as a Buddhist temple, but then it eventually can become a Shinto shrine because other deities are also added in those temples and shrines. Okay, so Kukai and Saicho sects now they were contemporaries, but they both of them led different careers. Kukai and Saicho, the two founders of the sects, are called Shingon and Tendai. So we discuss about those two founders now. Both founded Mount High Buddhism. Kukai founded the sect called Shingon, and this sect is mostly focuses more on tantra and rituals. It synthesizes esoteric and exoteric Buddhism. It's from a Confucian controlled servant of the government to the major ideology. It develops from so Kukai himself was merely a Confucian controlled servant of the government, but eventually leads to this founding of this Buddhist sect. It's given less importance for institutional religious history. And then Saicho, the other major figure, he had founded the other sect called the Tendai, and that is mostly based on the Lotus Sutra, the text of Buddhism. And Saicho started Tendai. Saicho definitely has an influence on Tendai, Zen, and Amida, which is a later sect of Buddhism. Now let's look at the Pure Lands sect, which was founded by Honen in the 12th century from 1133 to 1222, his time period, the time period of Honen in Japan. Uh, so Amida word itself, the Japanese word comes from the Chinese word Amito Fo, and that comes from a Sanskrit word Amitabha, which means eternal light or eternal brilliance. So Amida, the Japanese Buddhist version, is about faith and a personal relationship with the Savior. So Buddha here, the Buddha form here, Amida Buddha, is a savior figure. Mahayana, so not the Theravada Buddha where you need to depend on your own efforts to gain the moksha, but here you need to invoke this savior figure. That's how you get your liberation. Pure Land it refers to the word Sukhavati, which means a Western paradise. It's a stepping stone for enlightenment, not exactly the enlightenment, the last stop, but a stepping stone. It's a metaphor for a higher state of consciousness. Uh, Practice for meditation was simplified by Honen, the Tendai monk. Chanting of Amida with faith of birth in Pure Land Namu Amida Butsu was chanting. So this chant that you will gain birth in this pure land will will eventually lead you to this pure land, and that's why it's called as a pure land. It's kind of a paradise where you unite with the Buddha, the Amida Buddha form, the Buddha form of Buddha, Amida form of Buddha, that is the savior figure, that will eventually lead you to the final destination, that is the enlightenment. This particular Pure Land Buddhism is very popular with lay groups, and the sutras that are used are the Infinite Life Sutra, Contemplation Sutra, and of course the Amitabha Sutra or Amida Sutra. Then there is true Pure Land. So Pure Land itself is one sect. And then comes the true Pure Land, which is the Shinshu, which was founded by Shinshu, uh, which is called as the Shinshu sect also. It was founded by Shinron in 1173 to 1263. He was a lay disciple of celibate Honen in 12th century, and his wife was Ashinini, Shinron's wife. Shinron equates Pure Land with Nirvana, and he rejects chanting, and he re-emphasizes faith only. Only faith can lead you to enlightenment. No chanting, no other ritual can help you. Human sin, evil, is overcome by grace, and thus to doubt Amida is the biggest sin. That sin can be overcome only by the grace from savior figure Amida. Nembutsu is the word that means call of Amida. When you get the call from Amida Buddha, you return the call by chanting Nembutsu and live as gratitude towards Amida, Kamidana, and Butsudan. So faith is a gift from Amida, and the enlightenment will happen suddenly, not by regular discipline or practice, but you need to have this full faith on Amida. And when Amida decides to call you, you need to show your full faith and then chant the name of Amida as a gratitude, as your gratitude towards Amida. That is the way to practice true Pure Land, not by any discipline or any chanting, none of that. Unless you remove all your doubts, you cannot achieve enlightenment in this sect called the True Pure Land or the Shinshu sect of Japanese Buddhism. Shinron further says that even a good person will be reborn in the Pure Land. How much more so an evil person? So, good person, which means a person that has intellectually developed, but he or she may have doubts. So, even that person is given enlightenment by the grace of Amida. But so called evil people, they have not even developed to be able to doubt Amida. So, they will definitely be given the grace also by Amida, and they will also be reborn in the Pure Land. Precepts were thrown by Shinron, and he lived as a layperson. He said all those precepts and rules and formulas and sutras and chanting are of no use. Your celibate life is of no use. It doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the full 100% faith on Amida. And that can only come as a grace from Amida. You cannot develop it by any discipline or any chanting. So he lived as a layperson. He married, had a wife, and so on. He did not care about any other disciplines and rules that Pure Land sect, earlier sect, had taught him. He rejected all that teaching. He used only larger Pure Land Sutra. The age of the decline of the Dharma, Mappo, is when Honen dies at the end of the second age, and then Shinron comes and says, you can do practice with understanding, practice without understanding, and no practice and no understanding. There are three ways you can practice Buddhism. So, what it matters is that self-power, Jiriki, must match the other power, Tariki, that comes from Amida. Jiriki is your own faith, Tariki that comes from the grace of Amida Buddha. So Honen identified both Jiriki and Tariki, your own practice, and the grace from Amida. Both are important. Vow that were the vows. Those were the vows of 18 and 19. But Shinron in this True Pure Land says, Jiriki is of no use. Only Tariki, the grace from the Amida, grace from the Buddha, is only important. Only that can give you the liberation, the enlightenment, not your own self-power. That has no value unless you get the blessing from Amida. Now, the last sect of Japanese Buddhism is the Nichiren sect, which is also called the Sun Lotus sect. This focuses on this world and on self effort, instant enlightenment, enlightenment for everybody, shortcut to salvation, and opening one's innate Buddha nature in this world is the way to achieve enlightenment. Nichiren lived from 1222 to 1282 CE. He was a 13th century Japanese reformer monk, and his teachings were based on Lotus Sutra. He chanting the Lotus Sutra instead of Amida. So he rejected Amida Buddha and he emphasized only Lotus Sutra. Nichiren sect further has three different schools: Sokai Gokkai, Nichiren Shoshu, and Nichiren Shu. Nembutsu leads to hell. That's how he criticized other Buddhist sects of Japan. He says Nembutsu leads to hell. Zen is a devil. Shingon destroys nation. And Ritsu is a traitor. The only true Buddhism is the Nichiren Buddhism, according to this sect, the way they criticized other sects.